Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nippano Sadharma Samstapako Lokanamita Karino Tribhuvane Madhyo Saranyakaro Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nande Namataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopalago. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they're honored all over the 3 worlds. They're worth taking shelter of because they're absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. This is Nectar of Devotion, summary study of Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and it is presented by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And we are reading chapter 21. It's a long chapter, so we're taking it in bits and pieces, and it is the qualities of Krishna. Rupa Goswami is going into depth on each of the qualities. So this is number 21, and one of Krishna's qualities is that he's pure. There are 2 kinds of supreme purity. One type is possessed. When one type is possessed, one is able to deliver a sinful person. When the other type is possessed, one does not do anything which is impure. A person who possesses either of these qualities is called supremely pure. Krishna is both. He can deliver all sinful conditioned souls, and at the same time, he never does anything by which he can be contaminated. In this connection, Vidura, while trying to detach his elder brother Dhritarashtra from his familial attachments, said, "My dear brother, you just fix your mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, who's worshipped with beautiful, erudite verses by great sages and saintly persons. Krishna is the supreme deliverer amongst all other deliverers. Undoubtedly, there are great demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, but their positions as deliverers depends always on the mercy of Krishna." Therefore, Vidura advised his elder brother Dhritarashtra to concentrate his mind and worship only Krishna. If one simply chants the holy name of Krishna, this holy name will rise within one's heart like the powerful sun and will immediately dissipate all the darkness of ignorance. Vidura advised Dhritarashtra to therefore think always of Krishna, so that the volumes of contaminations due to sinful activities would be washed off immediately. In the Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna is addressed by Arjuna as Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, the Supreme Pure. There are many other instances exhibiting Krishna's supreme purity. 22. Self-controlled. A person who can control his senses fully is called vasi, or self-controlled. In this connection, it's stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, all of the 16,000 wives of Krishna were so exquisitely beautiful that their smiling and shyness were able to captivate the minds of great demigods like Lord Shiva. But still, they could not even agitate the mind of Krishna, in spite of their attractive feminine behavior. Every one of the thousands of wives of Krishna was thinking Krishna was captivated by her feminine beauty. But this was not the case. Krishna is therefore the supreme controller of senses, and this is admitted in the Bhagavad Gita, where he is addressed as Rishikesh, the master of the senses. 23. Steadfast. A person who continues to work until his desired goal is achieved is called steadfast. There was a fight between Krishna and King Shamantaka. Krishna was to take a valuable jewel from the king. The king tried to hide himself in the forest. Krishna would not become discouraged. Krishna finally got the jewel by seeking out the king with great steadfastness. 24. Forbearing. A person who tolerates all kinds of troubles, even though such troubles appear to be unbearable, is called forbearing. When Krishna was residing at the place of his spiritual master, he did not mind taking all troubles in rendering service to his guru, although his body was very soft and delicate. It's the duty of the disciple to execute all services unto the spiritual master, despite all kinds of difficulties. The disciple living at the residence of the spiritual master has to go begging from door to door and bring everything back to the spiritual master. When prasadam is served, the spiritual master is supposed to call each and every disciple to come eat. If by chance the spiritual master forgets to call a disciple to partake of the prasadam, it's enjoined in the scriptures that the student should fast on that day rather than accept food on his own initiative. There are many strictures. Sometimes also Krishna went to the forest to collect dry wood for fuel. 25. Forgiving. A person who can tolerate all kinds of offenses from the opposite party is known to be forgiving. Lord Krishna's forgiving quality is described in the Mahabharata in connection with his forbidding the killing of Shishupal. King Shishupal was the monarch of the Chedi kingdom, and although he happened to be a cousin of Krishna's, he was always envious of him. Whenever they would meet, Shishupal would try to insult Krishna, call him ill names as much as possible. In the arena of the Rajasuya sacrifice of Maharaj Yudhishthira, when Shishupal began to call Krishna ill names, Krishna did not care and remained silent. Some of the people at the arena were prepared to kill Shishupal, but Krishna restricted them. He was so forgiving. It's said that when there is a thundering sound in the clouds, the mighty lion immediately replies with his thundering voice. But the lion doesn't care when all the foolish jackals begin to make their less important sounds. Sri Amunacharya praises Krishna's power of forgiveness with the following statement. My dear Lord Ramachandra, you are so merciful to have excused the crows clawing on the nipples of Janaki simply because of his bowing down before you. Once Indra, the king of heaven, assumed the form of a crow and attacked Sita, Janaki, Lord Ramachandra's wife, by striking on her on the breast. This was certainly an insult to the universal mother Sita. Lord Ramachandra was immediately prepared to kill the crow. But because later on the crow bowed down before the Lord, he excused his offense. Sri Amunacharya further says in this prayer that the forgiving power of Lord Krishna is even greater than that of Lord Ramachandra, because Shishupal was always in the habit of insulting Krishna, not only in one lifetime, but continually throughout 3 lives. Still, Krishna was so kind, he gave Shishupal the salvation of merging into his existence. From this we can understand that the goal of the monist to merge into the effulgence of the Supreme is not a very difficult problem. Persons like Shishupal, who are consistently inimical to Krishna, can also get this liberation. Grave, 26, grave. A person who does not express his mind to everyone, or whose mental activity and plan of action are very difficult to understand, is called grave. After Lord Sri Krishna had been offended by Brahma, Brahma prayed to him to be excused. But in spite of his offering nice prayers to Krishna, Brahma could not understand whether Krishna was satisfied or still dissatisfied. In other words, Krishna was so grave, he did not take the prayers of Brahma very seriously. Another instance of Krishna's gravity is found in connection with his love affairs with Radharani. Krishna was always very silent about his love affairs with Radharani, so much so that Baladev, Krishna's elder brother and constant companion, could not understand the transformation of Krishna on account of his gravity. 27. Self-satisfied. A person who is fully satisfied in himself, without any hankering, and who is not agitated even in the presence of serious cause for distress, is called self-satisfied. An example of Krishna's self-satisfaction was exhibited when he, Arjuna, and Bhima went to challenge Jarasandha, the formidable king of Magadha, and Krishna gave all credit to Bhima for the killing of Jarasandha. From this we can understand that Krishna never cares at all for fame, although no one can be more famous. An example of his not being disturbed was shown when Shishupal began to call him ill names. All the kings and Brahmins assembled at the sacrificial arena of Maharaj Yudhisthira became perturbed and immediately wanted to satisfy Krishna by offering nice prayers. But all these kings and Brahmins could not discover any disturbance in Krishna's person. 28. Possessing equilibrium. A person who is unaffected by attachment and envy is said to possess equilibrium. An example of Krishna's equilibrium is given in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam in connection with his chastising Kaliya, the 100-headed serpent. When Kaliya was being severely punished, all of his wives appeared before the Lord and prayed as follows. My dear Lord, you have descended to punish all kinds of demonic living creatures. Our husband, this Kaliya, is a greatly sinful creature, and so your punishment for him is quite appropriate. We know that your punishment for your enemies and your dealings with your sons are both the same. We know that it is in thinking of the future welfare of this condemned creature that you have chastised him. In another prayer it is said, My dear Lord Krishna, best of all the Kuru dynasty, you're so impartial that even if your enemy is qualified, you will reward him, and if your son is a culprit, you will chastise him. This is your business, because you're the supreme authority of universes. You have no partiality. If anyone finds any partiality in your characteristics, he's surely mistaken. 29. Magnanimous. Any person who is very charitably disposed is called magnanimous. When Krishna was reigning over Dwarka, he was so magnanimous and charitably disposed, there was no limit to his charity. In fact, so great was his charity in Dwarka that even the spiritual kingdom, with all of its opulences in Chintamani, touchstone, desire trees, and sarabi cows, was surpassed. In the spiritual kingdom of Lord Krishna named Goloka Vrindavan, there are sarabi cows, which give unlimited quantities of milk. There are desire trees from which anyone can take all kinds of fruits as much as he desires. The land is made of touchstone, which when touched to iron will transform it into gold. In other words, although in the spiritual kingdom, the abode of Krishna, everything is wonderfully opulent, still, when Krishna was in Dwarka, his charity exceeded the opulence of Goloka Vrindavan. When Krishna is present, the limitless opulence of Goloka Vrindavan is automatically present. It is also stated that while Lord Krishna was living in Dwarka, he expanded himself into 16,108 forms, and each and every expansion resided in a palace with a queen. Not only was Krishna happily living with his queens in those palaces, but he was giving in charity from each palace an aggregate number of 13,054 cows, completely decorated with nice clothing and ornaments. From each of Krishna's 16,108 palaces, these cows were given daily. This means that 13,054 multiplied by 16,108 cows would be given in charity by Krishna every day. No one can estimate the value of such a large number of cows given in charity, but that was the system of Krishna's daily affairs while he was reigning in Dwarka. 30. Religious. A person who personally practices the tenets of religion as they are enjoined in the Shastras, and who teaches others the same principles, is called religious. Simply professing a kind of faith is not a sign of religiousness. One must act according to religious principles, and by his personal example he should teach others. Such a person is to be understood as religious. When Krishna was present on this planet, there was no irreligion. In this connection, Narada Muni once addressed Krishna jokingly, "My dear Lord of the cowherd boys, your bulls are the representation of religion, while eating grass from the pasturing ground and moving on their four legs, have certainly eaten up all the grass of your religion." In other words, by the grace of Krishna, religious principles were so well cared for that hardly any irreligious activities could be found. It is said that because Krishna was constantly performing various types of sacrifices and was inviting the demigods from the higher planetary systems, the demigods were almost always absent from their consorts. Therefore, the wives of the demigods, regretting the absence of their husband, began to pray for the appearance of Lord Buddha, the ninth incarnation of Krishna in the age of Kali. In other words, instead of being pleased that Lord Krishna had come, they began to pray for Lord Buddha, who is the ninth incarnation, because Lord Buddha stopped the ritualistic ceremonies and sacrifices recommended in the Vedas in order to discourage animal killing. The demigods' wives thought that if Lord Buddha appeared, all kinds of sacrifices would be stopped, and thus their husbands would not be invited to such ceremonies, and thus would not be separated from them. Sometimes it is inquired, why don't the demigods from higher planetary systems come to this earth planet nowadays? The plain answer is that since Lord Buddha appeared and began to deprecate the performance of sacrifice in order to stop animal killing on this planet, the process of offering sacrifices has been stopped, and the demigods do not care to come here anymore.